While we haven't gotten any official, really, promotion for The Lord of the Rings of Power Season 2, we are getting some massive new leaks coming out of the production, and it looks like this show is going to continue its downward trend and be just as abysmal, maybe even worse than the first season that saw 63% of people who tuned in to watch the first episode did not complete the show. So it looks like they're going to be even losing more people with season 2 based on what we're seeing from these rumors. Before we get into this, I'd like to ask you, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of our future videos here at the Trent Report. Let's get into this here. Headline reads, The Lord of the Rings of Power rumor claims to reveal why Adar and Sauron are rivals. And then it also says that Prime Video has acquired the Silmarillion rights. This is coming from Cliff Broadway at theonering.net. Massively shill website, but they are connected to Prime Video. They have leaked information in the past about the first season. So I think that there's some legitimacy probably to these rumors, and they appear to back up many of the rumors we've seen from Fellowship of Fans previously. But first, Broadway claims Amazon secretly acquired the rights to the Silmarillion for use in this second season. He added that his sources close to the show's producer informed him, quote, most significantly, according to verifiable spy reports, Prime Video has secretly acquired the rights to the Silmarillion, unbeknownst to us. And I definitely think this is surprising news, given the fact that showrunner J.D. Payne made it explicit that they did not have the rights to Silmarillion back in February 2022 when promoting the first season of the show. This is what he told Vanity Fair. We have the rights solely to the Fellowship of the Ring, the Two Towers, the Return of the King, the Appendices, and the Hobbit. And that is it. We do not have the rights to the Silmarillion, Unfinished Tales, the History of Middle-earth, or any of those other books. At the time, his fellow showrunner, Patrick McKay, explained why they didn't need the rights to the other books. He said, there's a version of everything we need for the Second Age in the books we have the rights to. As long as we're painting within those lines and not egregiously contradicting something we don't have the rights to, there's a lot of leeway and room to dramatize and tell some of the best stories that Tolkien ever came up with. Clearly, they did not paint within any of those lines. They were creating their own story. They were writing the book that Tolkien never wrote, as they said. I mean, these people are the biggest snakes around, two-faced, speaking out of both sides of their mouth. They are probably worse than Wormtongue, if I'm being honest. I mean, just absolute liars, trying to get people on board by saying, look, oh, we're going to be faithful, and then literally doing the exact opposite in the show. Complete and utter bait and switch. Massive, massive liars. And they exposed themselves. They knew what they were doing. They lied to people, and then we saw the fruits of their lies, right? We saw what they actually did. So even if they got the rights to the Silmarillion, I don't think that it matters, right? They had the rights to the Appendices. They didn't follow it. They didn't care about it. They didn't care about honoring Tolkien at all. So I guess they just blew a bunch more money to acquire the rights to the Silmarillion, and they're not even going to use it. Like, right? I mean, should we expect them to use it? No, because they didn't use the right. They didn't use the Appendices in the first place. So why should we expect them to use the Silmarillion? So it looks like just another massive amount of money that they just gave to the Tolkien estate. I guess the Tolkien estate is thank you very much for giving us our money. Although I think that you're probably harming the Tolkien brand in the process. Because I do think a lot of people are buying into a lot of this stuff. The people that did complete this stuff that don't really know all the stuff that Tolkien did right, and they're thinking that this is the new stuff. This is how it was. This is what Tolkien wrote, when indeed it is the opposite. So on top of them getting the rights to the Silmarillion, Broadbeam also shared details about why Sauron and Adar have a rivalry, as well as details about Sauron and how he's going to be depicted in Season 2 in general. So he says, newly leaked info says the conflict between them is fueled by a tragic death. Sauron evidently had a son, and Adar evidently killed him in cold blood prior to the events of Season 1. Nothing close to this appears in Tolkien's stories. At least Broadbeam can say that. He's being honest there. And the idea that Adar might have killed Sauron's son, I guess, was hinted as much in the first season when Adar questions Halbrand, saying, did I cause someone you love pain, a woman, perhaps a child? I think that's at the tail end of episode 6, after they had this ridiculous chase where Galadriel and Halbrand are on their horses and they're chasing Adar through the woods. And Halbrand is the one to eventually dismount him and then is about to kill him. And he even asks him, "Do you remember me?" Like, obviously they had some kind of past before. And Adar had previously told, or I guess after this scene, Adar tells Galadriel that the reason why he was pissed off at Sauron is because Sauron was basically sacrificing all of his people for his like dark rituals and things like that. So he decided to kill him. But it looks like maybe now Adar killed his son. So just utterly ridiculous, utterly stupid. And again, what's the point of buying the rights to the Silmarillion if you're not actually going to use them and you're going to put this weird stuff that Tolkien never wrote into your show? I mean, again, what's the point? You just blew a bunch of money because you're not even using it. So not only does Broadbeam claim that Adar and Sauron's rivalry is due to Adar killing Sauron's son, but he also shared that the rivalry will continue into season 2. He shared that Adar will surrender to Sauron and become one of his generals. However, he will later betray him. I think this was pretty much, we kind of got an idea of this back in August when Fellowship of Fans claimed this, that Rondir will be present at the 2-episode battle in the Rings of Power season 2 alongside Elrond whilst fighting Adar's army. Anyone who knows anything about what happened here, it's Sauron leading the army against the elves, against Elrond and the elves at Eregion. So the idea that Adar is doing it seems utterly, didn't make any sense. So one would assume that he had to have been working for Sauron or something like that. And you even had Philip Strip of Fans' Chen elaborating on this rumor in accompanying video saying the battle, quote, has been featured in our news, I think, a couple of times as well. And there's a lot of drone footage of, like, fighting, siege engines, bodies, that sort of stuff. So it's not like a big secret or anything. And indeed there's a huge fort, and you see all this stuff in the video too. They share the screenshots if you want to watch that. But then another member of Fellowship of Fans, I think his name, he goes by Strider, obviously basing himself off of Aragorn's pseudonym, would inquire as to why it would be Adar leading, or sorry, Strider's the one who answers the question from someone else who's inquiring as to why it would be Adar leading the army rather than Sauron. And Strider explained, I think we came to a similar conclusion that basically they will somehow in one way or another, they will end up on the same side. Like Adar will join Sauron in some way, basically be the commander of his army or something like that. And then he will be made officially that, and then he stopped himself. So we kind of saw this already from this rumor back in August. So it looks like confirmation of this rumor from August from Broadbeam's sources now. So on top of this piece of information about Sauron and Adar, Broadbeam also detailed there will be at least 3 versions of Sauron showcased in the second season. Allegedly, in the first episode of the second season, the series will recount the creation of the world by Eru. As part of this creation tale, Sauron's original Maiar form of Myron, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, will be shown, but will not be played by either Charlie Vickers or Gavi Singh Chera. Rather, there is a third actor. So we're going to get a third version of Sauron in his Maiar form, rather than obviously his Sauron form or the Anatar form or something, some other form that he's taken like a number of forms in the past. But it looks like we will be getting another character playing Sauron in his Maiar form. And now this is also really interesting too, because he shares that as part of this kind of like origin story that they're going to be showing is that Sauron nearly convinces Gandalf to join him. And this is what Broadbeam's source told him. This is not Broadbeam paraphrasing. This is a direct quote from his source. He says, a whole episode is dedicated to Sauron's backstory leading up to the breaking of the first silence. After the 4th interruption of the song theme, several Maiar meet and discuss Melkor's discord. Myron, Sauron alone speaks, the one has blessed me more so than all of you to see the potential of his creations, and what better way to forge their metal than by allowing them to face Melkor's discord and grow beyond what they think capable. You will see Mithrandir in this scene. Myron almost converts him, almost. So I don't know. I'm kind of sick and tired of this stuff. Like having him have this temptation. That's something that we see Galadriel actually gets. Gandalf kind of has it a little bit, I guess, in the Lord of the Rings, but I think it should be saved for that. That's when he's really tempted, rather than being tempted here. I don't like this. Again, changing the books, right? Changing the books. Like, you bought the rights to the Silmarillion and you're not even going to follow it. Makes no sense. So the idea that there were multiple versions of Sauron, with different actors playing him, was previously rumored by Fellowship of Fans, with the account posting on X. I think this was just last month. Yeah, at the end of December, Christmas Eve. They wrote, exclusive! Gavi Singh Char will play Sauron in The Lord of the Rings of Power Season 2. He will play the original form or version of the character, which is meant to be angelic and ethereal per sources. So they're claiming he was maybe playing the Maiar version, but it sounds like that's not the case. He's playing a different version. It's unclear what version he's playing. They would go on to add and said, can also finally confirm Dr. Nosy report that Anatar is a character name listed for the Rings of Power Season 2, though no confirmation or evidence yet as to whether original form Gavi equal Anatar. So it's unclear if he's playing the Anatar version. If he is indeed playing the Anatar version, it is obviously a race swap. Tolkien was very clear on how he depicted Anatar, or at least Sauron's form of Anatar, as being fair. That is how he depicted him. And that's how he deceived the elves. And then they also added this. So in flashback scenes, original form Sauron will have long hair. In present day scenes in Eregion, he apparently has shorter hair. So obviously creating a contrast between the two characters there. Obviously, they're going to look completely different because Charlie Vickers looks nothing like Gavi Singh Chera. So I guess they wanted to make it clear that they're different based on their hair length as well, I guess. Maybe that has something to do with the elves or whatever, but their elves have short hair anyways, again, so like that doesn't make any sense in Rings of Power. So, as I said, Sauron has taken a number of forms during his time on Middle-earth. He was originally a gifted Maiar and the apprentice of Ollie, known as Myron. However, his desire for order and control corrupted him, and he joined forces with Melkor. Under Melkor's command, he became known as Gorthar by the Sindar of Beleriand and Sauron by others. It appears that the show will introduce another form for when he returns to Eregion in Season 2 as well. So this is what Broadbeam says. One of Sauron's disguises to return to Eregion. How many can there be beyond Anatar? I mean, I love how he's even questioning this stuff. I mean, the guy who runs basically the biggest Rings of Power shill site is like, what are these people even doing? Like, what's going on here? This is ridiculous. And he's saying that Sauron is going to take the form of Celeborn. We assume this plan is to dupe Elrond, Celebrimbor, and Galadriel at the same time. I mean, so stupid. So Sauron, because they basically blew their chance at using Anatar, even though it sounds like they're going to use Anatar, who knows how they're going to do it, because he's already got them to build the craft the 3 rings of power at the end of the first season. It's so convoluted. Who knows what these people are doing? It makes no sense. But apparently, because they can't really use Anatar, they're going to have him use Celeborn to dupe all of them. It's stupid. It's absolutely stupid. Like, and this is they created these problems themselves. If you had stuck to Tolkien's work, you don't have these problems. You don't have these problems. But they chose not to. They wanted to write the book that Tolkien never wrote. And then they've created an absolute mess, an absolute disaster of a show where 63% of people didn't even finish. People saw through this. They saw how absolutely garbage and terrible this was and turned it off. While Sauron will apparently be taking the form of Celeborn, Celeborn will also appear, and he will be played by Caleb Lynch. I think that's how you say his name. That was also previously reported by Fellowship of Fans as well. So this just looks like an utter disaster. And there's more to the rumor from theonering.net. I will probably be covering that in a separate video. But I wanted to really focus this one on Sauron and the Silmarillion stuff. And I mean, how much worse? You didn't think, like, we did not think the show could get worse, but it clearly can. It clearly can get worse. And these rumors confirm that it can indeed get worse. If any of these rumors are true, this is already off to a worse start than the first season. And that would have been hard to imagine. That was hard to imagine, I think, because the first season was so utterly terrible. But let me know what you guys make of these rumors. What do you make of what's going to be happening here in the Rings of Power Season 2? Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable, but to always speak the truth.